Welcome, superhuman. I have an exciting guest and podcast lined up for you today. Her name is Dr. Marsha Evans. She is a high vibe manifestation coach all the way from Miami. She has her doctorate in clinical psychology with a concentration in forensics. She spent approximately 10 years training and working in various prison mental health departments across the country. She climbed her way up the corporate ladder after receiving her degrees by age 26 and truly thought she had made it. However, over time, the prison system burnt her out. After experiencing depression for the first time in early 2020, she decided to take a break from her job. This is where it all began. Shortly thereafter, she experienced three pretty traumatic events, resulting in tremendous grief and a near-death situation. These events were the catalyst to her spiritual awakening and the moment she radically changed her life. She went on a deep healing journey and began learning the principles behind manifestation. In a short period of time, Dr. Marsha began to manifest all sorts of things like free first class flights, 10K to invest in her Airbnb business, a free house, free dentist appointments. The list goes on. But what mattered the most to her was she manifested her peace and happiness. Dr. Marsha now teaches others to manifest their deepest desires through a combination of spirituality, psychology, and a touch of science. Welcome to the show, Dr. Marsha.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I wish I was interviewing you in person in Miami, but that's
Oh,
we'll get there one day.
I wish you are.
So, clinical psychology in forensics, is that an area that you always knew you wanted to get into?
Yes, like believe it or not, like forensic and like the criminal mind and working in the prison system, the court system was always like my dream job for a good chunk of my life. And like I went to school for it. I did all my studies, my practicing, and I was just so gun-ho about it. And I loved it. I loved it for quite a bit of time until, it was just it was no longer for me. A lot of times we think we are going on this certain trajectory in life. Like we think we have this like plan and idea of how life is going to look, and then something crazy happens like COVID and now you have to slow down, or now you have to stop and start over. And for me, that's what I had to do. It was no longer fulfilling for me. It was no longer bringing me fulfillment, bringing me joy. And also it became very stressful.
Mm. Did you work mainly with women or men, or a mixture of both? Or
So I did a mixture of both, mainly men, but I also did women for a little while, and also juveniles, so kids.
wow, that would have been
That
full on.
was
Yeah, for sure. And so you've done this for approximately 10 years, and then you yourself then started to experience some mental health. You said you experienced some depression for the first time.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? Like when you're working in the mental health field, sometimes, or in general, we kind of get lost in the sauce, and you don't really realize what's happening. And sometimes, you have like high functioning disorders or dis-ease, the body's at a dis-ease. And I was like functioning at a like high depression, like I was depressed, but it didn't present as depression, like it just presented as overwhelm, and it presented as procrastination, up until I started seeing more of the traditional things you would see in depression, like very, very sad and like crying and all of that. And I think what happened in that time period was I got to the point where I knew I couldn't do it anymore. Like once I really knew that I can no longer mask it. I can no longer put this facade of being okay or being the strong one or still providing treatment, because that if you are experiencing like depression, anxiety, or anything, and trying to help others that are also experiencing the same thing, that's not helpful, and it becomes detrimental in the long run. So I needed to take a break.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any sort of service where you're working one-on-one with people, and especially when there's a lot of emotional trauma and a lot of things that you're dealing at the front line of a lot of things. And so it's hard not to take that on board. And it's maybe something they don't teach you is perhaps how to not energetically take that on as well.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't really teach you the energy thing, the energy side of things, and yeah, it was just a really bad environment, it was not a good environment towards the end. It just started to take a toll on me.
Yeah. And so this is when you experienced not one, not two, but three quite traumatic events.
Yeah. It was crazy because when you're in a situation, right, and it's time to go.
Mm-hmm.
It is, whether it's the relationship, whether it's the job, whether it's a friendship, when your time has expired. And I knew before this all happened in the beginning of the pandemic. So March 2020 was when everything started to happen. I knew before March 2020 that it was time to go, but I had all these excuses. I had, oh my God, I worked so hard to get all these degrees at this young age, I can't leave. Or, oh my God, I need, quote unquote, need this job in order to survive, or they're paying me really well. The benefits are good. So there's a lot of things that were holding me back. But then I came to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. Burnout hit crazy. And there has to come a time in life where you choose yourself first. There has to come a time in a period in life where you say, enough is enough. And I decided to take a break. I decided to take a break and I went on sick leave initially. And literally this was the end of March. Pandemic started happening.
Mm-hmm.
No one knew what COVID was at the time. And I was like, I'm definitely not staying in this environment doing whatever the hell this is mm-hmm. currently. And I took my break, and then literally within the next week, my aunt got COVID. And then a few days later, it was discovered that my grandma had COVID. Then my aunt passed, and my grandma passed. And then I had a near-death situation. And that all really taught me how, one, life is too short. Two, you have to do what makes you happy. You have to do what brings you peace. And I entered my spiritual awakening, that was when I really started to realize all this stuff doesn't matter. What matters the most is me, you have to put yourself first. And I didn't realize that. I knew that, obviously we talk about putting ourselves first, but when you're in it, you are not. You're choosing a job, you're choosing a relationship, you're choosing codependency, you're choosing something for you to put yourself first. And that, that wasn't okay. So, fast forward, I didn't care about the degree. I didn't care about how much money I was making. I didn't care about any of that stuff. I just really, really wanted to feel happy. The degree, all that, I didn't care.
Yeah. It unfortunately generally takes something like that, like losing someone close to you and just feeling that unease in your own heart that I know I've worked hard, I've had a great career, but I need to do something that's going to truly make me happy. And yeah, unfortunately, it does take losing someone close to you and the uncertainty of what's happening, because then it's when you truly hone in on what's important to you, which is you. Right. Yeah. So exactly. Insert, this journey now where you're, and when you say spiritual awakening, I mean, this obviously means a lot of different things for a lot of people. For myself personally, my spiritual awakening was reconnecting to who I was, reconnecting to who I am and what I truly want to do and be in this life. So how was your opening to this world?
Yeah, I think I can really relate to that. And especially the being part, a lot of times we're go. We have to get this done. We have to finish this. And it was like my whole world shut down and I had to just be. my spiritual awakening is my spiritual awakening is surrendering to the moment, and just allowing God, ancestors, universe, everybody that's on the team to handle things, because I realized that we have very little control over a lot of things. And I needed control before all of this. And then in that moment, in the months of between March and April, I realized how little control I had. And the only thing I could have done was to surrender. And I think for me, that is the biggest message that I have received throughout this entire journey, to find myself and do things that truly make me happy, despite what other people have to say. And also just being in the moment, because, we are human beings living a spiritual experience. So it's like just being was really big.
Yeah. And obviously a lot of this has unpacked for you from experiencing your own near-death experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're, was it a more of an instant, like, was it a quick kind of occurrence that happened, or was it a prolonged,
It was definitely like a quick thing. It was definitely, it was, because sometimes, it could have been worse. It definitely like a quick-ish thing.
Yeah.
But relearning who I am, and letting go of what I thought things were going to be after was what was hard. And sometimes it still is, because, you have this like mindset over the years, like, a lot of people, they go to school to get a good job, to do all the things. And then most people are miserable. Most people aren't happy with what they're doing. And even so, like, I was very told throughout my life, you go to school, you get a good education, then you do the 401k, and then you retire, and then you die. And it's just like, that's it. But that was what I was taught, and that's what I knew. So sometimes, though the experience was relatively quick, the aftermath of relearning who I am is, and still can be, very challenging.
Yeah, I get you. So it is, because it's like, I mean, you see the light, and then it's symbolic almost as this old version of you is now laid to rest, and then this new version of you is now to come to life. So that's very, very exciting. And so is a lot of the things that I was introducing that has manifested from what you've now opened up. So take us through your like learning who you are, and then how did you end up doing what you're doing now?
Right. So, okay. So when I quit my job, right, I had to figure out money. But, I had to figure out how I was actually survive. And though I was making good money at the time, my spending habits was pretty poor. And I had just money traumas and a lot of money wounds about how to actually keep money, save money, all the things. And I was just like, well, I had all these boundaries. I was like, I'm not going back into the prison system. I'm not doing hospitals. I'm not doing private practice. I had all these boundaries, all these things that I was not going to do. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do anything and everything that I wanted to do that I saw on YouTube. So I initially started YouTubing how to like wholesale properties. I wholesale properties for a little while. And then I was like, this is too much work. I don't really want to do this. And then I was like, well, I like to travel. I travel a lot. Let me do Airbnbs, because when I travel, I only stay in Airbnbs. So here's the thing, right? I was working with a real estate mentor at the time, and I was closing deals with wholesaling, and I had closed my first deal when working with her. She reposted me on like Instagram, like, oh my God, congratulations to Marsha, she closed her deal, blah, blah, blah. And prior to that, I did this method known as the 3-6-9 method. And I'm going to go in more details in that in a second. But I knew that I no longer wanted to do wholesaling, but I needed $10,000 US dollars to start my Airbnb business. So what I did was I asked God, ancestors, universe for $10,000 to start my real estate business. Subconsciously or consciously, really, I knew I wanted it for Airbnb, but I was also okay with getting $10,000 for a wholesale deal.
Yeah.
So long story short, I did this method where I wrote down 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times at night, saying, thank you, God, ancestors, universe, for providing me with $10,000 to begin my real estate journey. I'm so happy and grateful. I wrote that sentence out 3 times in the morning, 6 times at night, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times at night.
Mm-hmm.
And fast forward to my real estate mentor reposting me. Someone saw her post. He reached out to me and he was asking me about a deal that I had under contract because he wanted to get the property. We were talking back and forth through emails, and within like 3 days, we hopped on a call and he was just talking to me. He was like, oh, I really love your like energy. I really love what you're doing. What do you see yourself doing at, do you want to continue wholesaling? And I was like, oh no, I really don't like it, honestly. I really want to get into Airbnb, but I quit my job. I don't have money, all these things. And then he was just like, well, how much would you need? And I said, I would need about $10,000 to get started. And he was like, oh, that's it. And he mailed me a check of $10,000 and I knew him for 3 days. So that's how one of my first large manifestations occurred. And
amazing.
Since then, yeah, everything just been happening.
Yeah. A free house. What was the other one? That was interesting.
Yeah. So the free house, that one's really interesting because over time, right? I like to say that manifestation is a lifestyle. Manifestation is, sometimes people are like, oh my God, I have to think positive. And if I don't think positive, then this is not going to come through true. And I think the lens that I look at it from is like, psychology and energy, a lot of energy. And you have to get your energy behind it. You have to believe what you actually want, because whenever you believe something and truly believe it, then it comes to you. So here in the States, the rent for homes were like crazy,
especially in Miami.
Yeah, exactly. Over time, I, was just practicing my energy, changing my subconscious mind, rewiring the subconscious mind, and really trusting and surrendering to know that anything I want can happen. And basically what happened was my boyfriend and I had to move out of our apartment because our rent went up like almost $1,000 extra a month, which is crazy for a home. Like, I mean, it was a 1-bedroom place at the time.
Wow.
And I was just jokingly saying to him, I just wish someone would buy me a house, just laughing. And he was like, well, maybe. And I was like, yeah, nah, no one would ever do it. And, I don't know, I just felt like something or someone would be able to do it. So I went out and got my journal and I scripted. I wrote out exactly what I wanted, how I wanted it, and expressed gratitude and all of that. And literally 2 or 3 days after that, I was speaking to a family member and I was just loosely speaking to her. And I was like, I just wish someone would buy me a house because it's so expensive in Miami. And she was like, oh, I've been sitting on some money. I can do that. And literally bought the house, bought the house. And we actually turned that also into an investment property, Airbnb as well. So it's just been crazy. But when it comes to manifestation, I can't express this enough, like, yes, think positive, but also it's humanely impossible to think positive all the times. What I like to say is identify what your thoughts are, address the low vibrational thinking, and then let it pass. Don't remain fixated on that quote unquote negative thought or low vibrational thought, because when you remain fixated on that thinking, when you remain fixated on that thought, that's when depression, that's when anxiety, that's when all the things start to come up. And now you are now continuing to manifest anxiety, depression, things that aren't going your way.
Mm. Wow. There is a lot there. And one of the things that was coming through when you were sort of talking about like just having the conversations about what you wrote down. Personally, when I write things down, I'm a little, it's going to sound strange, but perhaps shy to speak about it, perhaps, and ask. I find that with myself and with a lot of women that I've worked with, we have difficulty in asking for things, and it's because it's I don't know why the ask is so hard, right? Like it really isn't. It's just a conversation. It's like you said, I was just having a conversation with a family member. Wouldn't it be great if someone just bought me a house? And she's like, well, actually, and in the grand scheme of things, we all do want to help each other. So it's like,
Right.
why are we so fearful of asking for help when we need it, or when we feel like we could use some help?
Right. I think the biggest thing is maybe trusting and believing that others want to help. Like we as women, we're really nurturing at the core. We constantly want to give and help, but when it comes to us, we don't want to receive. We don't want to be the receivers. And I think it's because we don't trust others to give us, or we say, oh, I can do this, it's okay, not like really receiving the help. I think once we again surrender, and once we surrender and just let go of things not going our way, or let go of believing that, because sometimes the thinking pattern is maybe this person really doesn't want to help me, or maybe this person wants to help me but they want something out of it, or maybe there's always some type of ill intent underlying those thoughts. And I think it also depends on the person. So really identifying, what is the thought? Is it fear? Is it anxiety? Do you trust this person? Like, what's happening? And then just allowing. And then also I would say, like, start off small, like, let's say someone's willing to buy you, I don't know, a taco. Instead of saying, no, I got it, just allow it. Just allow it, and what happens. And when you allow it, have the thoughts of, wow, I'm so grateful that this person bought me a taco.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not having resistance to that. And I like, even in how you're talking about your methods, it is a method of surrendering when you talk about not just being positive, but it's like having those intentions, but also honoring the shadows that will, arise from that. And where is that fear or that boundary that you've set for yourself coming from, and then flowing through. I really liked that visual that you created there when you spoke about that. And that really does speak mounds to how you said surrendering was the catalyst for this belief system and this it really is. It's a belief system in yourself. Was there anyone behind you that was, encouraging that belief in yourself at that time?
Yes and no. Like, over time I have found like a spiritual mentor and, reading books. My boyfriend was pretty supportive, but I haven't really, I think it's a decision that you have to make with yourself. Or like with anything else, if there's something you really want to do, or if there's something that's pushing you to do it, it comes to a point where you can't ignore it anymore. It comes to a point where you almost like have to do, you don't have to do anything, but it kind of feels like this is it. I think that's what it was. Like, things started aligning. People started coming into my life. It was just crazy. Once I was just like, you know what, I'm done doing something that no longer serves me. And I think that's the hard part. A lot of times people are so comfortable with where they are, no matter how miserable, no matter how unhappy they are, that they fear that should they do what they actually want to do, they will fail. When a lot of times it's quite the opposite. When you step out on faith, when you step out and believe and have that unwavering faith that everything will work out, it almost has no choice but to work out. You know, like I always say, like, there's nothing in the sky that says, Ashley, you cannot become a millionaire. There's nothing written in the sky that says that, right? There's nothing stone that says you can't be a full-time mom. There's nothing written in stone. It's the belief system that people have.
Yes. As you were just saying that, I'm just thinking it's like we're basically co-creating with God, right? You know, people think that we're here and everything's scripted and, you know, everything's already predetermined. Even if it were, we don't know what the script says. So, you know, so why not try to just branch out and see what you're capable of? Because if you're at an intersection of your life and you go left, you're never going to know if right was the right way, because now you've committed to going left, and that's the direction, you know, and whatever hurdles and achievements that you get on that path, well, then that's your path and you chose it, you know. You're honoring that fire within you, because like you said, it's like when you're at that point where that intersection where you cannot physically continue doing what doesn't serve you. So you're like, I have to choose a new direction.
Right. Exactly. And I like that you said that we're co-creating with God, right? Because that is so, so true. And I think sometimes that goes over people's heads, you know, like we're in a co-creation process. The thing is, right, we define the what, right? We figure out what do we want. So for example, I knew I wanted to start Airbnb. That was the what. The how is up to God, ancestors, universe, whatever you believe in, right? Like the how is up to them. And that's where the co-creation process happens. I didn't know this person. I only knew him for 3 days.
Yeah.
That I would never have thought he would have provided me this money. Now, if I was fixated and trying to figure out where this money was going to come from and trying to like reach out to all these people, it would have been a lot harder to get the money. But I literally just, I did the 3-6-9 method. I did it 3 times, 6 times, 9 times. And I did it for 7 days straight. After that, I let it go. I forgot about it. I was like, you know what? Let's just see what happens. Surrendered. I just let it go because the how doesn't matter. There's so many crazy stories that I've heard or seen with my clients where I'm just like, say what? That's what happened. But the what, the intention, the belief, that is the work that, you know, we have to do to get behind what we want. And then the how is the easy part. The how is up to God.
I think that's the beautiful part of, you know, the work that we do. You know, there are a lot of alignment in what we do and how we help people. And it's that they have to have that belief in themselves, but then having someone believe in you and encouraging you to write your dreams down, write your desires and things down, and actually looking at it tangibly and going, okay, that feels good. Like, how does that feel in your body when you write down that I want to be, you know, this, or I want to travel to? How does that feel in your body?
Right. For me, it depends on what it is, right? It really depends on what it is. And a lot of times it just feels like freedom. It feels, I don't want to say like the cliche word, but good, you know, it feels good. It feels flowy, you know, like it doesn't feel like stringent, you know, where you're just like, oh, I have to get this done. It just feels just so flowy. And I think the reason why, like with the scripting and the 3-6-9 method and all the things, I always throw in gratitude, right? And I always say things when I'm writing things down. I say it in the present tense. And the reason why is when the brain, first off, there's no such thing as time. Time is an illusion, but that's probably another topic for another day. You know? When we say things in the here and now, you know, our brain, the subconscious mind, is registering it as if we already have it now. So I say things a lot of times in the present tense all the time in the present tense when I'm writing and scripting and all this stuff, because it's in the here and now. And that's what the brain knows. When your brain believes it, your energy starts to change. When your energy starts to change, then you start to attract things. But in addition to that, I also throw in gratitude. I always throw in gratitude, because, you know, when you are grateful for what you already have, more of what you want always comes to you. Like, it's law. Like, it has no choice but to come to you. So remaining grateful for what you already have. And I know sometimes it's really hard when things feel like it's crashing, when things feel like the world is going to end, your world is going to end. But I'm telling you, when you are grateful for what you already have, what you appreciate appreciates. And then that's it.
Yes. Yes. And wow, exactly. I agree 100% with everything you just said. And this 369 method, did you come up with this, or was this something that you came across in your learnings?
Oh yeah, no. So it was actually developed by a genius really called Nikola Tesla. And he was all about numbers. And he really specifically said that the numbers 369 are super powerful. He did like weird things. He would walk around buildings 3 times, 6 times, and 9 times, because he said that everything is connected to those numbers, and those numbers and the combination of those numbers is what really change the energy or the vibration. He's created like lights and like some smartphones and all kinds of things, and he uses this method all the time. So when you repeat things in general, right? When you're repeating things over and over and over, like an affirmation, your subconscious mind eventually has no choice but to believe it, because that is what you're telling yourself. Same thing, if you are affirming that you are broke, you're going to feel broke. And then you're going to attract brokenness. Like for me, even when I was making over 6 figures and doing when I was working the 9 to 5 and making over 6 figures, you know, like I used to tell myself I'm broke all the time. I used to say I'm broke. I used to say I don't have the money. I used to like tell people I can't go because I'm broke. And what happened? What happened was I felt broke. I literally felt broke. Even if I had a little money, I felt broke. And because I kept telling myself I was broke, I was vibrating at brokenness, essentially. What was happening? Attracting car breaking down. I was attracting unexpected bills, like all the crazy stuff. The moment I started to change my thinking patterns and started to tell myself I'm abundant, abundance started to flow. It was like night and day. And, you know, it was hard. You know, it wasn't like overnight. I was just saying I was abundant and feeling it. No. But it was work that I did to start to attract the abundance in my life. And I think, you know, like the things that I talk about and the things that you talk about too, they're very simple. Like they're very simply said, but yet so complex, because we're humans are just not used to these things. But I'm also here to say that it can also be really easy. You just have to practice it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when people hear about this kind of work, you know, they think, it's just you're just lucky, just, you know, just luck basically.
Yeah.
But it isn't, you know, that a lot of people who actually watch something like The Secret or something, and then they just go, I'm just going to say $1 million check's going to arrive in the post and wait back. But really in the back end, in their brain, like you said, they don't actually believe that the check is going to come, but they check the mailbox and they go, that hasn't arrived today. And they keep wishing, and, you know, then they might forget about it and check the mailbox. That check is coming one day. I've asked for it. It's going to come. Isn't that how it works? You know, like they've got that preconceived, you know, disbelief in it. It's like, well, whatever. Yeah. But it's like when you were talking about not just an affirmation, it's like, I am abundant, and you believe it and you feel it. And it's that you're actually resonating that into your physiology. Then it becomes a true belief, because you embody it, because you believe I'm abundant, and you've practiced gratitude, which like you said, it's simplistic. And I've experienced this with clients where I've said, look, just before you go to bed, you know, you and your partner just say 5 things that you're grateful for in that day. And most people actually find that really hard 5? And I was like, yeah, like 5 things. Like, how hard is that? Like, I'm grateful for my mom. I'm grateful for my job. Like, I'm grateful for this house over this roof over my head. Like, it shouldn't be that difficult. And like, oh, 5? And I was like, yeah, like 5 every night. Do that and do that for like a month, and then start to feel the changes in your body that actually come from that. Because then you're like, wow, actually, I do have a lot of things to be grateful for.
Exactly. I love that. And I think you also touch on a really important point when you talked about like the physiological, the physical part of us, where there's a study by a scientist known, I think he's a scientist or maybe he's a psychologist, known as Dr. Emoto. And what he did the water study. And basically he had different participants hold two different cups of water. And he had different participants hold each cup of water. And he would say, okay, this cup feel love. This cup feel anger. This cup feel fear. This cup, they listen to heavy metal music. And what he realized was, with each cup, the water molecules look different. The water molecules under a microscope was very different. And he concluded that our bodies is made up of 70% water. So if you are constantly feeling fear, your body, your water molecules, your actual water molecules are going to be, if you're constantly feeling love, your water molecules are going to change. If you're constantly feeling gratitude, which by the way, gratitude is one of the highest forms of frequencies, your body molecule, your water molecules are actually going to change. So like the theory is, from a scientific perspective and a spiritual perspective and energy perspective, thing you can't see but know it's there, is if you feel like this, if you are feeling grateful for what you already have, you are literally vibrating at gratitude. And because you're vibrating at this level, now the universe is going to give you more.
Yes. I love that you brought up Dr. Emoto's work. I literally was telling my mom about it yesterday and showing her the different changes in the water, because it's really, really fascinating. All you have to do literally is just type it into YouTube and just type in Dr. Emoto, and you can see visually exactly how water changes. When it's he took polluted water, for example, and it was like really gross looking. Like you just look at it, it's like yuck, like it's definitely polluted water. And then just like vibrate that water with, loving energy, gratitude, or positive things. And the water literally like clears up, and it just looks like it's not the same water. And it hasn't been purified in any way. It literally has just been sent good intention. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And and like I said earlier, it's humanly possible to be positive all the time, right? Like it's just, we're human, things happen, I get it. But I think also giving yourself grace, because a lot of times people aren't giving themselves grace. They are talking bad to themselves. Imagine, we are our worst critic. Imagine our boss at a job talking to you the way you talk to yourself. You would have fired the boss. You would have left the job day one. So it's like, give yourself grace, and tell yourself that you love her or he or they. And just really, really, really acknowledge that, yes, think positive, but also give yourself grace.
Yes. Honor yourself truly. And I think a big part of your message today has been honoring yourself and what is truly true for you, basically. And I've really enjoyed speaking with you today, Dr. Marsha. I wanted to ask you a question I ask every guest that's been on this show, and that is, what does summoning your superhuman mean to you?
It means to trust myself and trust the universe that anything that I want can happen.
Nice. Like actual goosebumps. That's beautiful. And so the work you're doing now, this is your bread and butter now. You're working with people, helping them manifest their goals and their desires.
Yes, yes. So right now what I'm doing is I take one-to-ones. I only take a few a quarter, and this is the last quarter of the year. So I'm taking a couple more people, and we talk all things manifestation as it relates to your life. You know, I dive into how to rewire the subconscious mind. I talk about all the cool tricks and tips, and I really talk about really how to manifest and how to manifest what you want and how to believe in yourself and trust that whatever you want is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm taking one-to-ones.
Fantastic. And I'll put all of the how to the hows, isn't it funny? I'll put all the how to connect with Marsha in the show notes. And I encourage you to not only connect with her if this is feeling like it's the right vibration for you, pun intended, but also if there's anything that we've spoken about on the show, and I normally do this after I record the show, but I want to do it right now with you, because in the moment I'm feeling like if there is something that has stuck out to you today, whether it's the 369 method or it's the gratitude or it's any of the little nuggets that we've laid out for you today, I want you to commit to one of those things and do it, and commit to it for at least a month and see how that feels. If it's writing something down every day, or if it's just the 5 gratitude, things at the end of the day, just commit to something right now that stood out to you and do it for a month. And let us know, connect to us and let us know if there was something that we particularly spoke about. And I truly hope that this is the beginning of something big for you. And I want to thank you, Dr. Marsha, for taking time today to speak with us and to share your story. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great. This is really great. I love it.
I don't think this will be the last time we speak, but I honestly thank you so much.